Hey there, welcome back. So, if you're a regular to the channel, you might remember from previous videos, I've found my Atari ST from when I was a kid and I've been fixing it up. So far the RAM upgrade has been repaired and the power supply has been given a new set of caps, which have been mostly technical things. Today, it's time for a bit more relaxed, chilled out thing, where we're going to look at the case, put everything back together, give it a clean, and then try it out to check it still works. So, let's carry on. Just like most old computers, the case of my Atari is yellowed with age. It's not as bad on the ST though, because it came in a nice shade of grey instead of boring beige, which everyone else used, and it hides the yellowing pretty well. So mine has gone an interesting olive green colour, instead of looking like cheap spray tan. And this is where I'm deviating from the standard procedure of retrobiting it. You see, this is my actual computer I had as a kid. I didn't just get it off eBay to clean and restore. I mostly just want a clean computer, the colour doesn't matter too much to me. So to clean it, I figured I'd experiment and stick the top part in the dishwasher. I did consider later this might melt or warp the case, but it seems to be fine. It's definitely got rid of all the stuck in grime better than I could have done with a toothbrush or something. But you can see that there's some odd discoloration going on. Have I just invented a new way of retrobriting, like using my dishwasher? Another reason to avoid vigorous cleaning is that I don't want to damage all the repair stickers on the bottom. They need to stay, they're part of this machine's history. So to make this more sanitary to use, I'm going to be using a bucket of these rather nasty wipes that I liberated from work. We got them to help clean human malware off computers, but then someone read the warning label and pointed out that they're not that safe to use without gloves. One piece of battle damage that does need fixing is the crack in the case. We need to prevent that from spreading. Now, superglue is a pain, it always dries up, but then if you put too much on it doesn't dry. And also a tiny bit of glue will never hold this crack shut, so what I'm using is the old superglue and baking soda trick. Some people use baking soda for cleaning cases, others use it for cooking, strangely enough. You know, you can make fluffy muffins with it apparently. But I'm using it as a building material. The shielding on the machine needs a bit of attention to remove the surface rust. There's no battery in the ST, so this is just from being stored in a damp place. A light sanding with a rotary tool is enough to remove the majority of the rust. And finally, the old hot glue from the RAM expansion needs removing. A bit of IPA of the non-drinkable variety is enough to soften the glue, so it slides off easily. So the keyboard is the main thing to repair. That number 7 key needs putting back on. This is actually the second keyboard in this machine. I broke the left bracket key off the first one, and I guess this one had a broken key too that I just didn't notice. Whoever owned it before me had superglued the key on, and then it fell off. So what I need to do is remove the remnants of the key post from inside the key. Maybe I should become a dentist. I mean, I've got all the tools, can't be that difficult. To get to the key post involves the usual farce of taking the keyboard apart. This one has actually got 200 million screws in it, but you can count them all. And some of these are trapped under a big sticky pad. Now once all that's taken apart, the rubber domes inside the keyboard are held onto the PCB using nothing more than pure luck. Except two that didn't, and then one that fell on the floor that I found by complete chance on the black carpet. Now the nice thing about the internet is that if you can think of something, someone else has made it and put it online for you. I mean, don't think too hard because this rule applies to anything you can think up. But on Thingiverse, I found a replacement key post. All I had to do was convince my 3D printer to make it. Now this was challenging because 3D printers can't print tiny things very well, and as you can see, thin parts snap easily due to them being made from layers. So what I had to do was turn the item on its side and then print it again, and then file it down quite a lot. I also used ABS, which seemed to make it stronger. However, as you can see, the key is now fixed more properly than before, and it's not full of superglue. I've given the keyboard a bit of a wipe, but I won't take off any of the keys because I'm sure there's more waiting to snap, and I'm really not going through 3D printing more of them. About 10 years ago, I put a HXC floppy emulator in my ST. This was before the Gotex existed, and I needed a bracket to hold it in properly. Previously, I've used a gutted floppy drive filled with hot glue, but that's really not enough. So what I've done is made my own. I based it off the dimensions of the floppy drive, but then had to go through a few iterations to get it fitting in the slot properly. It's not quite perfect, but it's good enough for now, and I didn't have to modify the case at all. Once I've done a few more refinements to the design, what I'll do is pop it on Thingiverse and others can download it if they're interested. This was my first proper piece of 3D modelling, and it is something I'll definitely do more of in the future. It's really nice being able to design something and then print it and then fix the problems and iterate through a design very quickly. So yeah, I'll definitely do more of that. Now everything is cleaned and repaired, it's time to close the machine up. Atari took their shielding very seriously. It not only screws into the case, but has little twist tabs to lock it shut around the motherboard. This isn't just some flimsy bit of cardboard that we can throw in the bin. It's an integral part of the case. I removed the hot glue holding the RAM expansion in, some more needs to go on, but I couldn't find my hot glue gun and I'm a bit impatient. I normally use a lighter in this situation, but I couldn't find one of those either, so instead I've used my heat gun. Did you know the mounting for the ST disk drives is awful? The drive sits on little plastic posts that stick to the actual PCB, they're not part of the case, except when they snap off. And we know how good super glue is at sticking plastic on when you stick it end on. Yeah. Not only that, but they made the floppy cable precisely the correct length for the original drive, and then soldered it directly to the motherboard. The HXC is shorter than a floppy drive, so to make it fit I needed to use the boot from drive B cable that my old external drive came with, just to make it longer. I don't actually know how this cable works, but there's a little switch on it, and flicking it makes the ST think the second drive is the boot drive. But if you know how it works, could you tell me in the comments? I'm really curious. To add one last bit of buggering about with the floppy drive, it's also held on with this stupid brass standoff thing that doesn't screw into anything. It just sort of balances in a hole and then in the disk drive, and mine fell out and rattled around in the case. It's hard grabbing a round piece of metal with a pair of tweezers. Again, if you know why Atari put this in, could you tell me? Is it something to do with grounding the floppy drive? But then there's a ground lead on the data cable, and on the power cable, and the floppy drive's made of metal, so what were they doing? Finally, as I've lost most of the case screws over the years, I had to have a little root around in my pot of random spares. They're about the right size and shape, but more importantly, they don't poke through the top of the case, so it should look quite nice once it's all screwed shut. Before I show the finished result off, there's one final task, adding a sticker of my own to go with the others, put my mark on the machine. And there we go, it's complete. It's nowhere near perfect, but I'm not trying to make a museum display piece. This is and always will be my computer. It's now just less dirty and should keep working for another 30 years. So subscribe and come back in 2051 to see if it still works. But also come back next week because there'll be another video too. You may as well do something in the meantime. The HXC is a bit loose and needs some care when inserting an SD card, The bracket needs a little refinement to take some long bolts. However, it's good enough for now, so I'll just plug in my original joystick and this unlikely combination of a USB trackball, a PS2 converter and this little adapter. I'm using the trackball simply because it's the only PS2 device I've got that works with this adapter. I really need a joystick extender so that I don't have to resolder the joystick ports later. Why Atari put them under here I have no idea. The trackball, by the way, is the original version of one I used today, which is quite nice. So what's your opinion on things like this? Should I have removed all the stickers? Should I have retrobated the case and made it look pristine again? Fixed all the cracks and the scuffs? Is putting a computer in a dishwasher a good way to clean it? Or is it a horrific way of damaging it? I have a diagnostics cartridge, and as you can see, the RAM is good, the system is stable, and the only failures are external ports that I don't have a loopback plug for. So I think the machine is working, so we can get on and actually use it for something. And there we go, my ST is now working and it's ready to be used again. I have more things in store for it though. An SD card based hard disk needs creating. I did have a kit, and you can see me excitedly wave it around at the end of a previous video. But then my inability to solder surface mount ICs caused me to no longer have a working kit. But I've found another kit that uses through-hole components, so I'll be trying that soon. And failing that, I'll just buy an Ultra Satan. I want to try the kit first, because for me the fun is in making this work instead of just buying a pre-made item and plugging it in. This machine started life as a 512K ST, and like I explained in the RAM upgrade video, the first thing I did to it was to try and install an upgrade. Then I bought a second floppy drive, but not a regular boring one. This one needed a special cable fitting in the machine. And then there was the creative installation of a TOS upgrade. So you know, if you're the kind of person who likes figuring out how and why things work the way they do, consider subscribing. I'm that person who buys a new thing, and before even trying to use it, goes poking around in the settings menu to see what's there, or has it in pieces to find out what's inside. And on this note, another thing to sort out is the video quality. As you can quite clearly see, or not, which is actually the problem, fine detail is not that great. This isn't the capture device messing with the signal, it looks this bad on my TV. Although, it is period correct, it used to look this bad back in the 90s on a CRT as well, so I'm kind of used to it. The ST has two main video modes. The one you're looking at now, which can be done using RF, composite or RGB, so I might buy an RGB cable for it. I know I said I like building things, but I don't like soldering SCART leads. Someone else can do that. The other video mode is high resolution, and I really want to try this out with some more serious software. If you watched my last video, where I took apart some very suspicious cables, I managed to find one with a decent VGA plug on it. It's possible to make a VGA lead that runs the ST in its high resolution mode, so I'll make one of those up. Yeah, I know I could just buy one, but I want to find out whether my modern TV that has VGA input can do both 640x400 and the 15kHz low resolution mode. I mean, it should do, right? Because it's got a 15kHz input through its SCART lead, so surely the circuitry is all the same inside. Do you think it'll work? Now, these demos are quite cool. One thing I never learned as a kid was how to properly program the machine. I had to play around in BASIC, and I've got STOS that I had to go with, but I never got to do any assembly, so that might be something fun to try. And I did find some of my old STOS programs that I wrote, so I might load those up for a laugh. So yeah, that's it for now. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and don't forget to appease the algorithm by clicking the little buttons like you all know how to do. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.